Hey everyone, Shane here with etrailer.com. Today I have a 2021 Chevrolet Spark. I want to walk you through how to install the Roadmaster Battery Disconnect. On some vehicles, it requires a battery disconnect, or it requires a battery to be disconnected in order to flat tow it. The reason is the key has to be in the ignition in the on position so that the steering wheel doesn't lock. Well, if we don't have the battery disconnected, when we turn the key on, we have that key in the on position all the time, everything on our dash lights up, our battery's going to end up going dead. If we don't have a key in there, again, steering wheel locks and we can't tow it. Battery disconnect makes it very easy. We don't have to, each time we want to flat tow, we don't have to disconnect our battery. It gives us a switch inside. All we have to do is we have to push it and it automatically disconnects the power. However, it leaves the key in the on position so the steering wheel doesn't lock. There are 5 main components to flat tow any vehicle, typically. You have your base plate, which mounts to the chassis of the vehicle to give you a solid connection point for your tow bar. You have your tow bar, which gives you that connection from your base plate to your motor home, your safety cables, which are a secondary safety device, your wiring, which allows the vehicle to receive light functions from the motor home, and a braking system. Now, for this vehicle, because it's under 3,000 pounds, it doesn't require the braking system. So, what we have installed on this vehicle is the base plate and the wiring. There is one more component for the 21 Chevy Spark that is required, and that's going to be a battery disconnect. Battery disconnect is by Roadmaster. You can find it here at eTrailer. What that allows you to do, because the key needs to stay in the ignition so the steering wheel doesn't lock, that allows you to disconnect the battery so you don't wear it down as you're pulling the vehicle. Another thing to consider when you're flat towing your vehicle, or when you're wanting to set up your vehicle to flat tow, is the distance of where your base plate sits on your vehicle and where the center of your hitch sits on your RV. What we want is, you want that number to be within 3 inches. So what you would do is you'd measure from the ground to the center of your hitch, get that measurement. The measurement for our Spark to the center of where this pin goes through, where our tow bar meets our base plate, is 16.5 inches. If the number for the center of your hitch is within that 3 inches high, then you're good to go. If it's over that, then you're going to need a high-low adapter. You can find that here at eTrailer. This is what our battery disconnect looks like when it's installed. You can see it's very small, and so it's fairly easy to mount or find a location to mount it. You can kind of see where I mounted it there. This is a pretty small vehicle, which could be limited on space. We're going to have a couple of wires that are coming off. You're going to have one that says battery post, which it goes to the positive side of the battery. The other one's going to say battery cable, which it goes to a battery cable that was originally hooked to the battery post. When you hit the switch, what it does is it cuts the power between the two. You're going to have a gray wire that runs inside the vehicle. That gives you the switch to push to make it very easy when you're ready to, when you're done setting your vehicle up to flat tow, you have it hooked up and ready to go. It also comes with a fuse holder, and it comes pre-installed on the battery disconnect. You can see here, this is what our switch looks like. You can see it's very small. Really can be mounted anywhere in the vehicle, as long as you have a little bit of space behind whatever panel you're putting it on for the back of the switch where the wires get attached. Other than that, very small, really does not take up a whole lot of space, and all you have to do is push it to activate it. As far as the installation process, it's pretty straightforward. Again, as I mentioned before, you have a positive, or you have a cable that goes to your battery post, cable that goes to your battery cable, ground wire, and then of course the wire that goes in and hooks to the switch. The most difficult part about the installation is finding a place to mount the actual unit and then getting the wire ran inside the vehicle. Other than that, it's very straightforward. Now that we've gone over some of the features, let's walk through how to get it done. To start your installation, you need to find a place to mount the main unit. Where I mounted it is driver's side headlight, straight down, there's open frame rail. Just ran some self-tappers right down through there. We're going to have 2 cables. We're going to have one that says battery post, one that says battery cable. You're also going to have a white wire that is going to be a ground. I grounded the white wire right here. Just got to be on a metal surface. for my battery cable wire. This panel was bolted right here. All I did, battery cable, bolted it right to that piece that was connected there on this post. We can take our battery post and we'll connect it right here. One thing I will say, and I will recommend, is make sure you cover this. So even though this has a cover on it, I would go ahead and tape it up just to make sure if by chance another piece of metal hits it, you don't have an issue. We'll connect this last. And also, you're going to have a gray cable that we need to run inside so we can run it to a switch. There's a grommet straight back here. It's easier to go from inside and go out rather than trying to go from here in. You can see all I did was used a piece of wire, pretty strong wire, fed it through, and what I can do is I can tape this wire onto the end of it and I can pull it inside. So our grommet is going to be located driver compartment. You go over to the left kick panel, follow it up the firewall. You can see where my line is going in there. So this is the tricky part. The grommet that's there is pretty thick. The small area, there's limited space inside the vehicle to try and make a hole. It's hard to get a big enough screwdriver in there to make the hole big enough to feed, you know, an airline tube or something like that through. So make sure that this is long enough, your wire, once you make a small hole, make sure that this is long enough that you can pull out of it through. I taped it up here. What's going to be hard is, it was hard enough to get this through. Then we have to pull this wire with it. The reason you tape it up here is so as you're pulling it through, if by chance this pulls off of there, you don't have to try and feed this back through. You can just pull it back out a little bit and re-tape it on there in a different spot. Now we'll go ahead and try to get it through. Now that we've got our wire through, we need to mount our switch. I like to mount it out of the way. It's really up to you where you put it. Just make sure your wire's long enough and you're staying away from anything that's going to be moving or hot. I'm actually going to pull this panel off the kick panel, and right up here in this corner is where I'm going to put it. It's unnoticeable. You don't have to worry about actually hitting it or anything like that. To take it out, it's very simple. Right up in the corner, there's a little twist. It's almost like a little plastic nut that holds that corner on. You come right back here, you pull up, work your way forward, pull your head release and slide it out, just like that. And where I'm going to put it is right here. You want to make sure that you look back behind it to make sure there's nothing back there, because the back of that switch is going to sit pretty much like that. And make sure it's not going to be hitting anything, nothing's going to be touching it, anything like that. We need to drill a hole in this panel just big enough where this will sit on the outside. What I like to do is use a step bit. That way I can go small and go up a little bit more if I need to, and open it up till I get to the correct size. Once you get your hole drilled, press the switch in place, backside, put this nut on, get it tightened down, and then we'll go in the vehicle and we'll wire it up. Strip back the sheathing. You're going to have a black and red wire. Really doesn't matter which post you go to. Strip back the ends, loosen the screws up here, slide them in, tighten them back down. Now we can take this panel, put it back in, and get the rest of this wire tucked back behind the carpet, anywhere out of the way. Now we've got two things left to do. It's hook our post, or our battery cable, up to our post from our battery shutoff, and then install our fuse. I'm going to hook this up. Fuse comes in your kit. The gray wire that we ran inside, if you follow it down to the disconnect switch or the cylinder, there is going to be a fuse holder there. We're going to install that fuse right in there. Now we're going to test it out. When I open the door, you'll notice the dash lights come on like normal. What you want to hear when you push the button is you want to hear it click. And you see our dash lights. Radio will come on here in a second. There it is. Okay. Push the button. There they click. That shuts the power off. Once you've tested it, you know it's working correctly, you're ready to go. It's going to do it for a look at in installation on a Roadmaster Battery Disconnect on a 2021 Chevrolet Spark.